All right, welcome to the first practice of this course. This is where it makes a lot of sense to use Scrimba over a regular video. As we mentioned, we highly encourage you to actually give these practices and exercises a shot. Sometimes it's really tempting to just skip ahead to the solution, but you're only going to be hurting your own education if you do that. So please give it a shot. The way this will work is I will put an objective up on the screen, sometimes some hints as you see here, and then I'll leave about 5 to 10 seconds of silence to give you a chance to pause the video and actually try to accomplish the objective. If you get stuck, I recommend that you not just skip ahead to the solution, but instead that you go back to a previous video and relearn the thing that the practice is about. The more effort you put in, the more likely this is actually going to stick. So let's take a look at this practice. Your objective is to fill in the basic boilerplate React code needed to render an unordered list to the page. Inside that unordered list, you can put 3 list items with anything that you want in them. It doesn't really matter. The way that you'll know that it worked is that it will show up in the little browser window on the right. Here, since it may be your first time working in React, I've included a couple hints that remind you of the steps you'll need to take. So I'm going to leave some silent space now and go ahead and pause the screencast and give this a shot. Okay, let's go through the solution together. I'm going to remove the comments that I have. And the first thing we will need to do in almost every React file that we create is we're going to need to import React from the React library. And since this is our index.js and we're going to need to render something to the page, we're going to need the ReactDom library. And last but not least, we're going to use ReactDom. We're going to use its render method. And there are 2 parameters that we need to pass into render. The first one is what do we want to render? Well, as the challenge said, we need an unordered list. And inside that unordered list, we need 3 list items. And copy and paste this so we don't need to 1, 2, 3. You can see here this is kind of looking pretty ugly. We're going to see in the future how obviously we're not going to put our entire page here in the render. So I'm going to move this onto its own line so that it looks a little more like regular HTML. If you didn't do that, that's totally fine. And then I'm going to be really boring and just put 1, 2, 3 in here. Okay, that's the first parameter. And the second parameter is where do I want this to load into? If you remember from the last screencast, we have a div with the ID of root, and that's where we want to place our application. So in ReactDom.render, I need to provide a getElementById root so that it will go find that element and let ReactDom.render know this is where I want you to put this code. And when we refresh the browser, we get our 3 bullet points with 1, 2, 3. If any of that was confusing, I highly encourage you to go back to the previous video, rewatch it, play with the code, come back, do this practice again, mess with the code that I put here, see if it works the way you understand it, try to break it, etc. Doing that is going to really help you understand React on a deeper level than just passively watching me explain it to you. Awesome job. Let's move on to the next topic.